Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to another episode of Plotting and Scheming. We're in the in-between time now, between Season 46, the end of Season 46, 3 versus 3, and the start of Season 47, 5 versus 5. I am accompanied here by my three co-hosts, Dagger, TJ, and Sasha Isha. Thank you, gentlemen, all of you, for being here. Let me switch to the proper frame mode so I have everyone in the scene. Gosh, I hate when I hit that button wrong reflexively. But we're mostly cameraless. It's just me on tonight. But how's everybody doing? I'm not calling out any
Doing
names,
well.
goddammit.
You have one job,
Doing all
Cash.
right.
Do your job.
Doing all right. Long day already, but doing all right.
Alright, dig that.
Not in GAC.
So you're just bored?
Dude,
Yeah.
47 weeks. 47 seasons means like 47 months we've been doing this shit. Just so we all are clear on how long that is. And there was GA before there was GAC.
You realize it's like a couple weeks ago was my 3-year streaming anniversary. I don't even know how that happened, but yes.
I don't know if you can hear me clapping,
Wow.
but keep that attention.
Yeah, I'm still apparently doing this, so here we
Now
are.
you can.
Well,
And now you can walk.
Wait,
and
you
talk
still
and
stream?
eat solid food.
Hey, I stream at least one round a week, and you can't prove otherwise.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
It's all. Just go look at your history.
Well, I watch less than one stream a week because my sub expired.
Sasha, what's good with you, man?
I'm doing great. Honestly, enjoying the time down from GAC a little bit. Good to connect with you guys and maybe go through a little bit of thinking in advance of fives. But as I've mentioned to each of you guys separately, my typical MO is to take the GAC off week and make it as close as I can get to a SWOGA off week. It's just kind of nice to take a little time, follow other pursuits, and allow like interest in the game to not fully get beaten down by repeated GAC. But I'm excited to talk with you guys now. It'll be good to do this for an hour and then resurface again for fives.
Dig that.
Yeah.
Well, you know how it is that we do for this in between. We don't really have any hard objectives. I think that each of us can sit here and I'll go first, but each of you can probably come up with your own idea for something you want to talk about that's applicable here to the next season. For me, it's about having a sense about what to do with Leia. I think a lot more opponents are going to do more gamesmanship with Leia, like not having her up front, leaving you with does he or doesn't he, and then if you've got if your house is in order with Jedi and you're going to do Jedi, great. Otherwise, you have to reserve certain options. So I just, I guess that was kind of a ramble, but the first major question I want to dig into, and I was discussing this before we went live here, so I want to make sure we got this in. Leia. So we've had a couple seasons with her now. One 5, 1 3s, at least part of a 5s. And I've personally opted to go with the super high speed one. 173,000 health anyway, so decent amount of health, but nowhere near the 200,000 mark that I think a lot of purely health modded Leias are reasonably, in the top 50, top 30, top 10, whatever. In this neck of the woods, players are able to hit that 200k mark in full health modding. I just wanted to know what you guys had to say about that. Any experiences you wanted to share on the virtues of certain mod sets with her, because I think that's some highly in-demand information for the folks.
Speed matters a ton. If your opponent wants their SOK to go first, he's just gonna go first. That's not even like the best counter in fives.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna speak to what beats Leia because I think we all want to just hold whatever we're planning to do under wraps. But there's gonna be a lot of lazy people setting like Old Ben plus Baze or Mon Mothma plus Baze or even Han Chewie, and they're just gonna throw it on defense and make it somebody else's problem. And I don't think your speed matters at that point because it just becomes this game of how fast can you kill everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I'll remod her. Because I do have like 183k health on my speed Leia, but I would definitely want to be closer to like 210 health. Like you can get up to like 530 speed if you can. Because this will be faster than the offense build SOK is. But yeah, that's my opinion on it, at least. I don't think Leia's speed matters much, especially in fives.
How about how about you guys? What do you think?
Well, I'm happy to go. I tend to like to keep a balance with it. If I get some clarity of trends of what like opponents are doing, and I mean it's hard because you only get to remod once going into a week. You don't necessarily know who your group of eight will be. But if you have a good window into that, or you see just a common theme of who the predator is that's coming after it, then I would consider changing up for that. But otherwise, I'm just trying to keep a healthy balance there. Less on fives, but sort of reflecting on this from a threes perspective a little bit, in that I kind of looked at the defense versus health consideration. Let's just put speed aside for a sec. As like, are you really trying to make it hard on a JML Jedi Cal counter or on SLK? And for myself, having run both of those against Leia's, when I saw a ton of health on a Leia, the JML one became a bit more of a pain in the ass. Not impossible, but it was just thicker and tough to get through, and defense was not generally a consideration. So, like, again, for me, not necessarily knowing who's coming after my Leia or what their strategy will be. I'm just going for like a pretty solid balance of everything I've got. And to Dagger's point, like I actually may be one of those people that just kind of rolls out a fairly traditional Leia. I may mix it up. I mean, I've certainly considered like doing things like the Han Chewie stuff. But a lot of times, I like one tactic that I'll take is if I'm convinced somebody's going to take one of my squads super seriously and make sure that they kill it. I don't mind going a little bit cheap or just sort of not even really optimizing that squad.
Yes.
And just saying, all right, go pay that price. That's the entry price. And then I'm going to save my, whatever special sauce for something either that's behind it or that was going to be dependent on your reliable counter for there or some element of it. So I may do that.
Yep, that is completely fair. Good answer. Yeah, so I think, and we'll be sure to get TJ's take here, but I think something that I've heard from a variety of people I've spoken with is that a consensus is to not be under 530 if you're going to go for just a healthy build.
Yeah.
You're not the only one that said that.
That's okay.
Yeah, you're not the only one that said that, Dagger.
Yeah.
TJ, though, you got anything you wanted to add on we all know the rules. We can all keep our secret sauce here, but it's been a couple seasons, so people will probably be checking on folks anyway. What do you think? What do you think on the take on where you see Leia getting modded? Shut up, Kat.
I think for the Leia, I don't think any answer is wrong, right? The Dagger's answer, Sasha's answer, especially going into week one where we don't know what we don't know. I think team construct is going to matter a lot more than the Leia. I do think a minimum 530 speed is probably a good idea. But what comes beyond that? It's a supporting cast, not necessarily the Leia. Her, what the people are doing outside of her is what's really going to me make a difference on the team. But I also think 5 Leia, and I'll say it again, 5 Leia, even though we have 3 Leia figured out, 5 Leia is not going to be as hard in my opinion. And the only reason I say that is just because you have more pieces to move around in that team when you do the fight. That's why JML can work, right?
You're right.
And 3s, that's just like a solid shutout. SOK, nobody's really tried it, but I would tend to agree with Dagger that if they're going to be fast, they're going to be fast. And these Krons are UFU builds, so SOK is still a monster, but that may go to something else if warranted somewhere else. So there may be a lot more actually holding Leias than it is setting. I think week one, obviously, it's always set it and forget it because, again, it's their problem. but I've said it when we were ending out the last video that I don't think it's the Leia. I think it's other teams that are going to be a lot more of a tricky thing than what we're going to see with her.
Yeah.
One more note to add on to that, to what TJ said too.
Mm-hmm.
The other reason why I like the more health build is because the bulkier Leia wins in the mirror. If you have the speed set, you can just roll it with a health build. That's my experience with it, at least.
Interesting.
So I think personally that, again, I don't know if I'll remod for this week. It depends on whether or not I can get a couple of the other things in place to make that possible, because I have a couple other remods to do, and Leia's lower priority for all the reasons we've stated here. She's going to be number one menace that people are going to want to kill, so min-maxing her and remodding her is less of a priority. But having the flexibility to just be like yoink on offense for a mirror is going to be relatively important, I think. So I think for week 2, for sure, I'll have her in help.
All right, that's pretty fair. Well, thanks, guys, for entertaining that. I mean, any one of you can jump in. Our focus here is what we're taking into week 1 of 5, so have at it.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on this just a little bit, but I think this will be the first time in 5s where there's just going to be an abundance of the UFU defense stacking, level 6 data crons, and those were really impactful in 3s, or at least that was my experience. And it was actually kind of a cool reminder of how many unaligned force users there are and how many squads include them. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if that plays like a as meaningful a role in 5s. Like if you're just going to see certain UFU squads or comps really outperform because of the survivability that level 6 gives. I don't know if that's anything anybody else kind of suspects, but I'm curious about it for sure.
I think it's going to be less oppressive than the bulk crons were, but I think people might sleep on how good 500% defense is, especially in 5s, when that's going to stack a whole lot faster on both sides. So it's one of those things where. Sorry, go ahead.
No. But by all means, continue. I'll remember what I have to say on this.
Yeah, so because you're going to stack this so much faster now, I think okay. So I think the defense matters a little bit less in 5s than it does in 3s, just because you have more damage and more enablers. So I think you're going to be able to solve the problem a little bit better. But I think there's going to be a lot of people who still try to bad batch something. Well, bad batch might still work with the tree damage because it gets around stacking defense. But my point still stands on some of these like lower teams like Adrad, Mon Mothma. I still think a lot of these teams might be locked out just on the simple, well, maybe not Mon Mothma with Wedge, but anyways, you get the point I'm trying to make. I think a lot of these lower teams might get locked out because of the stacking defense or the damage reduction on Rebels.
Well, and
Right.
From my view, it's like you said, it's not just that these crons exist; it's that they will be robust here. So we will expect to see high secondary stat stacked, and I expect that to be defense on the toughest opponents. And so, to what Dagger was saying, where things stack faster, yes, I think that would give me more pause. Yes, there's more damage enablers here with a larger team size in 5s, but, if I see somebody with a 200% plus defense cron and it's stacking defense, utmost caution. Remember, our focus is thinking about week 1, right? Like, we have no scouting here. We're flying in with what we can research when people had the most like hoopty ass crap, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, one of my thoughts there, not to hog the time here, but one of my thoughts here was when I was giving my answer was, how many teams do we think will actually have an UFU on it in 5s? There's 11 teams, and my guess is 4 to 5 teams.
Yeah,
so
that sounds about right.
And that's why I was saying I think we'll have enough offensive tools, considering we talked about how many times I had a GL left over last season, right? Like, just a staggering amount of offense. I think in 5v5 you're going to be far less punished than in 3s because you're able to go more in on teams.
Yeah, but I think
Although,
intuitively, we'd all recognize that even if you end up having it to spare, the fact is that if I see you assign a GL to kill my non-GL team, regardless of your reason, I'm putting that as a dub for me.
Sure. I'm mostly speaking towards we're going to have enough. I don't know if it was before or at the beginning, but Sasha brought up we might see more 7 to 8 GL defenses, and I
Yeah.
think that that's likely too. But the reason I'm tying all this together is I think this season we're going to see a lot more GLs on defense because we're going to see people start to exit their comfort zone because people like myself who would set. I set 4 and 5 GLs last season and still had GLs left over on offense.
Mm.
Right? Like I could easily set 5 or 6 and still clear 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
It is a pretty
think,
rich, like, off-meta GL counter environment at the
because the
moment.
stats
isn't
are
it?
just so absurd.
Right?
Yeah.
TJ, do you have any?
Is so good. Sorry.
No. No, I completely agree with what you're saying there. It's I just want to make sure we had a chance to get in TJ on this question.
Yeah, what I've been doing is while we've been talking, it's just I just went to Insight, right? So I just went to GAC Insight, and I just literally put in 5v5. Took away all of the things to look at what the teams are, and I said it, and I'm going to say it again. I don't think it's going to be the GL we know and love that's going to be the one that's going to get us. I think it's going to be the trick Datacron with the offset of the team. We're going to forget one piece of it, a la Tash, your Malik, and Darth Revan.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it's going to be is damage reduction on the CLS. It's going to be the ability block or something else. It's going to be one of these things. Someone's not going to pay attention to one piece of that, and it's going to catch you. And I think that's what this week one is going to do for everybody. And then I think it's going to be funky combos because we have so many characters and not enough places to put them. That's what I think is going to be the piece that's going to, like, those, or what it's going to do to week one, where it's like, oh, I forgot about this one thing, and then it leads you down a dark path. They're going to be like super teams, right, that are eating up and putting this just, let's say, just dark side high defense, and all of a sudden now you have Tuskens, or you have whatever else, or you have an unaligned combo pack with, like, Vader, right, just to call one out. That's what I expect more, to try to catch somebody off, where it's like, I don't know what to pick against that, because this is so off the wall from what I'm used to or out of my comfort zone.
I think a great takeaway for our viewers would be, and I think this is applicable, I guess any time, but it's something like you kind of reminded me of it here. The importance of really actually checking the crons on every team that you can see on the front wall here in week one. Like, you're going to see a lot of familiar faces with the teams themselves. Your mind's going to go to the same familiar counters. You had best be checking to see how well those crons are stacked, and make sure that you tell yourself that your assigned counter is up to snuff to take that on. Otherwise, you better plan your defense conservatively and make sure that you can get done what must be done. That is something that I mean, for the front wall, for the bottom front wall, I'll do that always. But then but I tell myself, like, the top wall is a problem for once we clear the bottom wall. But it's something where you really should be checking it regardless, because, you're thinking it's like whatever they got up there, I'm going to have something for it depending on how well the bottom wall goes. And then later on, you're like, oh, that is a much better cron than I had anticipated on one of those top wall teams. I am going to have a terrible time. Mm-hmm. So very, very fair point. Like, it seems obvious, but, like, actually check on these crons, because, like, what Sasha said here some time ago now is these people are going to have well-developed, robust crons. So do not allow yourself to be caught off guard for information that was available before you hit battle start. Good.
If I may pivot,
please.
To what TJ said about checking last 5v5, go through your history from last season. Maybe take note of your tendencies. That's a scout thing. Task can talk about that. We can talk about that at a different time, maybe. But go check your history. Go check the people you trust history. Go check the people you follow's history. because I did that when I started doing my planning for the week. Like I did all my planning on Sunday for what I want to accomplish for the end of the week. Um, I forgot, like I shouldn't say forgot, but we don't use it any. JMK plus Ayla, like it still exists. That means Ray Cat's still on the menu, boys. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
we still have some things still available to throw wrinkles in. We just have to remember them. So especially going into a new 5v5, go refresh on what was good last 5v5 or what games you played last 5v5, because you don't want to copy them, but you can use them to further a strategy. And I know a lot of people in the top don't really scout that much. TJ and Tass do a ton of scouting. I do some. Not to pretend that I don't. I'm sure Sasha does some. But not everyone scouts. But for those who do, man, you can get a huge advantage. I'm not going to let Tass, don't get on your soapbox here, please. But you can get a massive advantage just from looking at your own patterns and learning from what your opponents did to you and take that to use against your opponents.
All very fair.
I know Tass is going for like an hour and a half about scouting.
I really could wax poetic on the virtues of it because, man, has it paid the bills for me over the years, let me say. All right, well, Sasha and I have each gotten a question out into the ether here. Would either of you gentlemen like to throw something up? Anything occurs to you that's applicable here heading into the first week of this upcoming 5v5 season?
Is anyone revisiting set 9 a little bit? Because I have the urge to reroll a couple of Jedi Crons for damage reduction.
Oh, you mean 10?
Set 10.
Sorry, yeah, the previous set. Does anybody else have any inkling of like rerolling a couple of level 6s or something from there?
I would say about a week ago I made that effort for one Kron, at a request of my guild, but it was something like if I really needed it for GAC, I would have done it, and I've done that in the past, like when it's late, when you only have maybe 1 month on. I basically have told myself like a personal rule, like if I have at least a month on it, I'll make an act. I'll do some kind of re-roll action. If I get at least a month on it, and I'm thinking it's going to make that much a difference where I'm considering to do it, to only have it for 30 days, hell yeah, I'll do it, but not for less than 30 days.
Yeah, I was just considering it because I only have 1 damage reduction Jedi Cron, and I would like a second. Especially for Qui-Gon. Seeing, again, this is going back and looking last season, there were some teams that struggled versus damage reduction Qui-Gon, and damage reduction Qui-Gon on offense also seems better for proccing more Anakin passives.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've run Foresight ever since it was available, and I mean, I will get the odd hold having it on defense, but I mean, particularly in 3s, 55, 56 are not uncommon outcomes for Qui-Gon with the Foresight.
Watching TJ do 38,000 damage on an AoE with his JKA after Qui-Gon died, it really made me rethink that.
I saw that, and that was an exceptionally, poor mismatch of the offensive Kron he had available versus the defensive Kron he faced. So I hear you. There are limitations. Nothing's carte blanche, but I've definitely, how much I've historically enjoyed Qui-Gon on defense. I mean, that has definitely surprised me with how not only effective, but efficiently effective in a couple of instances that it can be. Anyway, I don't know how we got there, but...
It was my second most held defense last season behind the CLS damage reduction.
Which, yeah, I didn't do that. I still ran Wookiee last season and still got decent results. I ran that. I only had the 1 Rebel ability block, and I put that with the Lobot Kron at you guys' recommendation. And I'll tell you what.
That is such a good Kron.
Let me tell you, man. Let me tell you. Among the things that worked against it, none of which were Wampa.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm into it. I'm into it.
You're welcome.
And I'm not saying the ability block is bad, but I'm going to keep rocking with the damage reduction one. Partially just because I like the stats on it for the CLS team. And I might try to build it. Yeah. I'm going to try to build another couple ability block crowns because of the talks I've had with you guys.
I think
it just seems 5. So good.
I think you want 5, but I like
5?
the idea. 5. And here's the
5?
Check your Rebel teams. There are surprisingly enough where I would want 5 if
that
I could
you
do
use?
it. that you could use on defense or offense, that it'd be there. Don't.
You
don't
got to remember,
sell them out.
Dagger. Remember, Dagger. TJ doesn't want to fight you clean. He wants to get nasty with it. He's gonna, particularly in fives. You see, in threes.
Let me state this. Let me do this real quick, and I'll say why. Why Dagger is right and why Dagger is wrong. Dagger and I have had many conversations. Here's why. Dagger and I have had many conversations. I'm going to give you the Ray Cat. Setting the Ray Cat week 1. Not setting it week 2, figure me out week 3. Dagger called that out and coined it, and I thought that was amazing. That is such a smart way to do
it. I crushed last 5v5 with that.
This idea of doing that, and now you can do that with your Datacrons. I'm going to ability block you 1 week. I'm going to damage reduce you the next week.
Yeah.
Because it changes your counter, your strategy, and what you have to do for it. And if you've got it on defense, and you're looking, it's like, oh, I'm just going to use this, and it doesn't work. Well, why didn't it work? Did you check what was going on? Did you look at the full picture? Well, no, this is what my opponent did last week, or this is what this guy did that week. It's like, that's not the same fight. You're fighting a different fight now. That strategy still applies here, which is why I say that.
Yeah, my baby has a cron, though, and it has the TM level 6, the resist debuff level 3, and the turn meter level 6.
And that's phenomenal. You're
screwed. I don't need an ability block on my baby. Mon Mothma, by the way.
Yeah,
that wedge crowd is nuts,
dude. But that's the other thing I'm gonna say, right? The other piece, I think it segues perfectly into, and why I keep saying these teams. 3s, Ewoks were meant. 5s, Ewoks are gonna be monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't set your less on defense in 5s. As much as we discussed the ability block versus damage reduction, you can't set that on defense. They'll just
Mon Mothma with wedge, or go Saw with wedge. These teams that were are not anymore with these combo packs that we're doing with some of this stuff. It's nuts, and that's why I keep going back to, it's not the teams we know that are going to do what they're supposed to do because there's more counters available and stuff like that. You're gonna make one small misstep, and that's going to catch you.
So TJ, quick question here. You said have 5 or 6 rebel crons at the ready. Do you think that that's good advice? That's just generally applicable here for 5s and 3s inclusive? Or are you truly thinking that we need between 5 and 6 rebel crons just for going into this first week of 5s, having the right number of options?
No, that's a selfish setup. Don't consider that. Like, if you're free to play, no. If you're wailing out,
no, just free to play, not free to play for 5's focus centered play. How many rebel crons do you think that you need?
I would say 3. 3's going to be fine because you only got to remember, you only have 11 teams, right? So
so that's why I ask it this way.
Yeah, so I would say 3. 1 per wall would be a great idea because you're obviously not going to do that. You have damage reduction as the other rebel cron, but maybe your back wall is all 3 ability blocks on all 3 Wampa food, and you go in and think, I'm just going to use Wampa, and you get caught out. So there's your Lobot with your Sortie. There's your, I don't care, Saw team that's got something in there that normally can be Wampa, or it's going to be Sana. It's just things like that. 3 would be my optimal number, especially with 11 teams that you're going to face.
Yeah, and I think, people might ask, which level 6s might be good to go for, and I think that without giving anything that's too team-specific, I think folks really can't go wrong with either the Rebel damage reduction or ability block. I'm sure there's, multiple situations where either would be excellent.
One Rebel turn meter for Mon Mothma to close loop. Pick up 1 turn meter at level 6.
Okay, there's a good one too. Yeah, Mon Mothma is still always an offensive threat to keep.
You have that's the thing about the Rebel faction, right? Let's look at what we have, right? Ufu. Ufu is a very big world. There's multiple ways, light and dark, that it goes, right? Then you have the Rebels. The Rebels are all over the place, including now a GL. Mm-hmm. And then you have the smaller bunch of Ewoks. That's one team. I'm sorry. You have one correct option on Nisa, right? It's a Nisa Cron. Mm-hmm. It's the turn meter gain offense level 6. That's your Ewok. We're done. Troopers are another one that have some maneuverability on how you're going to play your team, what's going to go with Iden, what's going to go until we get,
Big Papa
the
Gideon.
new Gideon. Right. Once he's out, this is a whole different ball game, and we probably want to go back to having this conversation then because it's like, shit got real, and we're gonna see what that does.
In GAC, he's going to go with Mandos, I think, right? That was the intention.
And with IC and Gar, he's gonna be fucking nuts. That dude's gonna be a monster with IC. Like holy hell, dude! And put what's his name on there? Candyman. Candyman's gonna deliver the candy while Gideon's over there and stomping faces, and it's gonna be monstrous.
And shameless plug for my Gambit brother Fatal there. This video, I was just sitting around at my mother-in-law's house, like on the couch the other day after dinner, like absentmindedly browsing YouTube shorts there, like while you're like you're waiting for dinner or for dessert to come out, right? That's the phase of the evening we're at. And and he happened to have this video that popped up on YouTube Shorts on this 2 versus 5 Gar and ISC versus Gas, the full 5. So that's an incredible thing to set up here for the next season, and I'm really looking forward to having that at least in the pocket, because if I'm facing opponents that are savvy to it, they're going to check for it. And almost assuredly, I won't be seeing a lot of Gas on defense this season.
Yeah, mod your PX for proc and your ISC for as much tenacity as you can.
There you go.
And then check your opponents to see if they did that, and if they did, don't send Gas.
We've had a good organic bit of discussion that grew out of this about, almost 10 minutes ago. But Dagger, refresh us again. What was your question? Because I gave some input and then we kind of branched out from there. I don't know if TJ or Sasha had anything else to add on that. And then I really wanted to move to TJ's question. So what was that again? Where were we with yours?
Oh, just how and where do you prioritize revisiting the old set if you feel like you're missing something?
Okay. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to throw in on that?
I'll add. I have at times gone back to like the previous set. I think the line that you mentioned, drawing for yourself tasks, is a really logical one. Make sure you've got at least a month. You kind of just do the cost benefit analysis of how helpful is this going to be and how long will I have it. There are definitely times where like I have realized that some particular counter or an anti-counter measure that I can take with the previous set's Datacron doesn't become apparent to me until that's like not something I can farm easily anymore, and I'll say, screw it, I want to go back and get it. Like there's still ones that I wish I had that I don't have. Like I look at, I didn't end up with an ideal Wookiee cron for like, was it like grit and crit avoidance and sort of everything pulled together there. But I haven't gone back to create one, but I've been tempted.
Yeah.
All right, fair.
Yeah, a lot of that, like you mentioned, sometimes you can't quite evaluate how the new set plays with the old set till you have a month of the current set under your belt. And then, as has been said, you only have a month left of the old one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I gotta say, guys, I think we probably hit on this maybe the last month video that we had, but I was not a big fan of Datacrons when they came out, and I wasn't a fan of Datacrons even when I was starting to like them, because I just didn't appreciate what it meant for the game for them to be there. But I will say, as time has gone on, I really have come to appreciate the chaos, the unpredictability, the constant reevaluation, the feeling that just as you've got it figured out, whatever made you have it figured out has just gone away.
I find Datacrons to engage me more frequently, because you have to look more than just mods now. So there's another thing you have to pay attention to. And granted, that extra engagement turns some people away. So I still understand why people don't like the additional thing they have to do.
Absolutely.
But I'm with you, Task. Like, I was way more optimistic at the beginning than you were.
Yeah, you were a much bigger fan up front than I was. That's true, man. I was Rackham Sackham. I was on my Yosemite Sam shit about that.
Yeah, but I saw this, right? I saw this happening.
Yeah.
But we're not at, but the not happy about Datacrons, right, was we weren't happy about the current state of Datacrons, to where it's come to here's
Geo.
Here.
Dagger called it out, right? it's not 1,000% armor penetration on top of here's your GL Ray. We're not playing that game
No,
anymore.
you're right.
They have refined what they are to be. Here's some addition and stuff. And I think Dagger called out. Or
Credit to CG. They really have taken their lessons learned to heart on these sets as they've gone on.
Not like it, but it's okay. One, I don't care what anybody tells me. I hated the dodge. Get the fuck out of here. Fuck dodge. It will remain forever. Dagger has disagreed.
No, hell yeah, brother. I'm right there with you.
No, Bulk is more toxic. Is more ubiquitous.
Hold on. When it's adding things that aren't being done by modding or something like that, it's just mods 2.0. It's an added layer. I like the added layer.
Dagger, to you, I'll just say, like, bulk means that, like, your stuff might hit for, like, tink, 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 and all of that feels terrible. All of that feels so much better than just like on chance, straight
But again, this goes back to what you said in our last video about you being a lazy player. You didn't go out of your way to find who does special damage against dodge, who does special damage against, who does.
Hold on, let me finish. I only said that because I always say that. Dagger, you have stated your reasoning. Your reasoning is not wrong. I just don't agree and fucking hate it. So that's all I'm saying.
That's fair. That's fair.
To the point.
I didn't say I liked it. I just said bulk is worse.
You understood it, and that's what I'm saying. But when it comes to now, these add-ons and tweaks to what they are is really good for the game because I'm now playing a JMK team that's different than the old JMK team. I'm playing a Jabba team that has this one little thing that's making it fun and interesting. Not this is super toxic and you're blah 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 that and all this. The layout bonus turn right with Drogon. It's like, man, that's bad. All right, so you just take
that.
Okay.
Sucks.
Yeah,
manageable,
it does.
but it's manageable. The things that were not manageable, which is why I didn't like dodge or GL getting a Kron. Well, we have Leia with the Kron right now. But that's not the most optimal one. The most optimal one is Drogon.
No, I mean that's completely fair. Like it's made a healthy spot for the game, and the original intent of making new whales competitive with old whales is viable. It's proof there. So, I think we're all in agreement that it's put the game in a healthier spot, and I want to get back to delivering on points that are of value to the people. Yeah. So I think we've covered Dagger's point in full. TJ, you're the only one who sorry, someone had something?
One last note on it.
Please.
One of the things that I think we can all agree to as well a little bit is the ebb and flow of Datacrons, while we feel like it's healthy, every time a new set comes out, I find myself gritting my teeth a little bit because we all have the ways we like to play. And it's always kind of fun to look at the Datacrons when they announce them and just like kind of grind your teeth at the shit that you're just like, oh, I don't like that. And then be like, oh, but we have this. So you get like kind of this mix of like, you have to eat your veggies and your dessert every time they come out with a new set. You know what I mean? It's like
an excellent metaphor. I like that metaphor. That's a very apt metaphor. Yes, there are new happy things to try, and then you lose some of your old favorites.
But you're learning to walk all over again, and that's each time we do it. So every time it goes away, what you've gotten comfortable with is now out the door. And if it's like the strategy also comes in, if one Datacron set only has, we'll say light side only, and the set before that is the only one that has like a dark side. Look at 10 and 11, right? Look what we're doing with now. Mm-hmm. Well, all of your dark side stuff is now gone. You have to really start to optimize how you're going to work this out. Do I need to put more dark side in for right now versus having the light side because the set previously has that for the build. So it's all those pieces that add in the change in the game and the way you're going to play it and what team you're going to use with it.
Yeah, very fair. Very fair. Sasha, I know we've all kind of been just stomping the conversation the last few minutes here. Did you have anything else you want to throw in on that before we move to whatever TJ has a burning desire in his heart to put to us?
Yeah, sure. I'll add. I'm a big fan of Datacrons and what they do for the game. Mm-hmm. I think everything that we've been covering here, I think they keep it fresh. They almost, in subtle ways, but for people like the four of us, and I'm sure anybody that's watching this, who are so immersed in the game, they almost sort of like reinvent meaningful elements of it every time a new set comes out. And so I love them. I'm a huge fan. I think it's a brilliant strategy by CG in terms of revenue generating, but and to keep the game alive. But the aspect that always kind of bothers me when they come out is that this is a game that has really kind of matured into a pretty healthy PvP environment, but got a portion of its origins and still kind of a core to its DNA is a collection game. And it does kind of suck to invest and really kind of get deeply into something that just completely disappears.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe it doesn't completely disappear, but it's done the equivalent of that. Like I'm staring at my R7 Night Sister Initiate right now, and that's a great example of it.
Yes.
Sometimes that's the downside, but man, the upside is like far greater than that. So I'm a big fan overall, but like Dagger's description of sort of looking at it and gritting your teeth, totally agree. I think that's spot on. And then there's that added element for me of like, oh man, I thought I added something into my collection, and I like that resource management and collection aspect on probably subconscious level for me was a big part of what got me into the game. So that's not fulfilled with it, but overall, big fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask a question real quick. Hey, Sasha, you had stopped for a minute and came back. What brought you back into the game, Sasha?
Yeah, it's a great question. So while it wasn't Datacrons, I will say Datacrons is what has made it like a soft landing back, ability to compete again quickly, and keep the game fresh. But honest answer, TJ, is like, guys like you guys, it's the friends, it's the community. And just Star Wars, man. I also just really enjoy it. Andor was like a meaningful contributor to it. Like that's one of my favorite shows, and I'm like, dude, I just want to get back to that and talk to friends that like Star Wars, and to kind of pull the thread through from that conversation on Datacrons, like there's no way that I would be sticking competitive with it if it didn't refresh regularly. I mean, I look at all the good thinking that you guys do, like the three of you, and bouncing stuff off of you guys and other good friends I've got in the game. And like, we would either be having the same goddamn conversation week in, week out to the point where we would go crazy, or we'd stop playing this game if it wasn't for them, It's just a lot of interesting thinking, creative stuff. So yeah, Datacrons are meaningful plus, man.
That's a good point. I mean, TJ and I are friends almost exclusively because Datacrons exist to shift the meta, and we just talk about it. That's how we like. No, seriously.
Yeah.
TJ and I, like, we started talking about Datacrons. Like, that's when we started, like, actually, like, talking to one another.
Very fair. So TJ,
it's funny to think of that way.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Very fair. No, it's all good. It is fun. What keeps us all, locked in and focused as this game just marches on through time. So very fair. So TJ, did you have anything that you wanted to go over here, or put to the team discussing our first week going into fives?
So I'll ask each of you your idea. Overall basic strategy that you're looking at. Is there a particular team, idea, setup, or something that's not going to give away? I'm not saying to give away the sauce, but something that you're looking at as a particular point of reference that's going to really like try to pivot you into a strong position.
For me, I'm going to be a bit more assiduous than I have been in seasons past about when I pull up an opponent's roster. I am going to sort by speed, and I'm going to look for gaps. I'm going to check for gaps here, because against for the opponents that I expect to be fighting week one, starting from 30 something, which is where I expect to be about, I expect extremely robust Datacrons. So I know that it's going to be something where I'll be, punching up most of the time. I have to see where my mods are going to carry me, because you know how I am about my A teams and my B teams. I try to keep them all screaming. So I have to see how much I have to rely on that, setting those teams and having a clever trap, because I expect to be at a Datacron disadvantage. I almost always expect to be at a Datacron disadvantage, but against a mature set 11, it's going to be very dangerous. Defense is always dangerous. Historically, we've seen defense to be very dangerous. So I'm just going to be very, very much in checking about speeds and seeing if there's anything I can clearly exploit. Because even if I get just one, God forbid, even two, I just get to just sail smooth through all my planning. If there's a big speed gap that I get to take advantage of, so that's what I'm going to be on top of.
It's the same thing. Dagger, Sasha, your guys' thoughts?
So for mine, as I look going into this first week, I'm going to be in that top 8 bracket, which means like I'm not going to be I'm loaded with Datacron, so I'm not going to be at a disadvantage, but I'm not going to be at a Datacron advantage, which I have been for the last couple weeks. So that means I can't play bully ball and just sort of say like, screw it, here's like some ridiculous defense up front, because I'm going to face the same type of stuff from these top accounts. One thing I'll say, actually, like, as I'm kind of reflecting on it, related to the question you asked earlier, TJ, like why did I pick up the game again, or a little bit of like a kind of evolved mindset I have playing the game these days, is that I can tell you what I used to do consistently, like when I was like hanging all the time in the top 8 and trying to do this. It was like the closest I had to like a scientific method to this stuff was I would reliably over a 3-week period ratchet up my defense with the understanding people are going to be scouting me, and so they'll assume I'm doing the same thing, and so I will increase the strength of my defense, add 1 GL or more per week going in over the season to just keep them a little off balance. And that would couple really well with, we all learn our counters better over those 3 weeks, right? So I'd start with a lot on offense, kind of making sure every defense was strong, but from a GL perspective, semi-cheese it, and then get harder and harder going in. And I would do that because I was really convinced that was my best probability of reliably winning. And as I look at the game now, I'm like, I could totally, that doesn't seem as fun. So I kind of am thinking, I may just like, all right, well, what would it be like to just go in? I'm not totally sure I'll be able to clear these opponents. But what if I just do whatever my like comfort zone is for amount of GLs on D +1, and just try that and see what it's like.
The old +1. Yep.
Yeah. Which I never used to do, dude. Like when I pure play to win, it was like, all right, let's just squeeze every ounce of uncertainty out of this. And if it has to be efficiency, which I don't enjoy efficiency, but if it has to, I'll do it. And then I have the strategic advantage of knowing I'm going into an efficiency match when my opponent may not. But I think I'll play a little more fast and loose. That's kind of, I guess, what I'm getting at. That's my mindset at the moment.
Yeah, great answer.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't old enough to remember, Sasha used to have a 200-point lead on everyone for like 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
When he's talking about this strategy he used to have, what he really saying is what he's not saying is I was number 1 with a bullet and no one could catch me. So I just want to throw that out there. He's not telling you the whole truth. He was when he was at his peak, man. He was terrifying.
Unstoppable.
But I pretty much echo Sasha's point. I have caught up with my contemporaries now that I have Leia, now that I've developed out all my other teams that I need to develop out. So I think I talked about this last month too. I'm still in like this no man's land where I still feel like I'm outgunned, and I still am usually out modded and out datacron to the latter to a substantial margin. But I have to break this mindset of I'm punching way up, because I'm 13.1 million now. Like, I'm not punching that. Sure, there are people who are 14, but I'm not punching as high up as I was when I was like 11 million fighting 12.5. Right? Like, I have, for all intents and purposes, in quotes, caught up to my contemporaries. So I'm still in like this no man's land where I still feel the need to be an efficiency player, but I don't have to be.
You
So
have to join us in the sweat lodge.
Yeah, so to what Sasha was saying, like that kind of rang true for me too. One of the things I wanted to try this month was the +1 method, if you will, because I need to break out of my comfort zone because I would basically do what Sasha said: set 3-week 1, 4-week 2, 5-week 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, need to get out of that habit. Need to try to forge a new path now that I have more tools and more ability to do interesting things.
All right. Very fair. Good question, TJ. Well, guys, I mean, I think having one focused question from each of us provided, 50 minutes of discussion. So I wondered if you had any other burning topics you wanted to get out of the way before we head into week 1.
I do.
Anything else that occurs to you?
Yes.
TJ,
I
what do you got?
do.
Yeah, let's
What
hear
are
it.
your thoughts about the updated squish formula? And how
I
it's
didn't
going
read that
to work?
post. What is it? What's
So-
going down?
They're
You
changing
said they
the
fixed it.
calculation and the formula. They said that they've come up with what they think, and we'll see it over time as a new and fair and balanced formula for what they call the squish. And
Okay.
that's essentially what the post is doing. So it's just gauging what everyone obviously look. Let's just call it what it is, right? Top 100 players. I would call all of us top 100 players.
Okay, for sure. Yeah,
Sasha,
fair.
obviously Sasha being up there and stuff like that, but I think that's a fair. Just let's gauge us where we're at, top 100.
Yeah.
What do we think that looks like as we'll get more? Because as we've seen, so you'll get your normal bracket and we'll get our normal top 8, right? And we'll get who we're with, and it's like, okay, I know this person. Where did they come from? They're new. I've never seen them before. And it's you get to that point where they're too close to the sun. They touch the sun, and now they're coming into what we all
Well, it
know
isn't
and love
even
is-
in that. Like, I don't know what this post is saying it's going to do, but my guess is that it's just going to exacerbate the existing effect of if you lose more than one in a row, you will plummet. So you will see new people enter the top ranks on that basis.
To my understanding, the purpose of this is actually to smooth all of that out.
Right.
So
Because
what are we
one
saying
of the
here?
so when I read it, my initial thought was, oh, they're smoothing it out so you drop less from the top and you rise less from the bottom. Because the squish was because what you're describing, if you drop 2 in a row, I went 2 and 1, dropped 30 spots. You went 2 and 1, dropped 30 spots. That has to do with their algorithm. I think they're correcting that.
Okay, so you guys are net positive on your feeling on this upcoming change.
I don't
My
think this
understanding
affects
was
me
the
at
same
all.
as that.
Sorry.
So I could have misread it, and actually, I kind of the cursory reading of it, but like the primary thing I took out of it was like they're just making Kyber 1 much bigger than it was getting, and more folks will stay in Kyber or Kyber 1 or whatever. I wasn't sure that they were reducing kind of the skill point impact of a win or a loss a ton. Maybe they are. I mean, presumably they are if the algorithm's changing. So I don't know what the hell the algorithm does. But yeah, if they have people move a bunch, I actually like I like being able to face different and new people at times. So I think that can be kind of healthy. It will lead to more frequent like gross mismatches where it's like somebody has a really good run out of like they're in let's say the bracket of 65 through 72 and they're all excited they have a really good week and then they show up the next week and they're like, who's this Aesop? And, they don't beat a squad. And they're like, what the fuck happened there? But so there will be some of that. But
do you think that's a short-term or long-term problem? Do you think that's going to be something that's an immediate effect that's going to wear out after maybe a season or two? Or do you think that's going to stick with us?
Not enough information.
Yeah, we don't know.
Here's what I'm going to go off of this. I'm going to read this real quick so it helps everybody.
Yeah.
So one, I laugh at because they highlight varying player experiences. What that means is that somebody's going to have a really good time. In other words, it's going to be throwing the phone at least 3 times that pipe. That's what that means, right? Let's compare
All right,
player
all right,
out there.
all right. I see that.
So their expectation, and I'll give it to them, right? This is a numbers game. They are numbers people. They work in numbers. They're saying that it's going to take about 2 to 4 months for this to settle down on what we're expected to see. It starts with the November 6th. So on this upcoming GAC, we'll see the initial parts of the squish and the change and the updated formula. But they're expecting 2 to 4 months for that to really take shape. But in that, as you just said, or as I said, varying player experiences in quotation marks.
All right, good. Any other last questions? We're closing in on 5 minutes to an hour, so we've got time for maybe one, maybe two, if we're quick about it. Questions? Is there anything else burning in your heart to explore before we dive into week 1 of this 5 season?
I don't know if it's quite all like that much of a.
No, it's burning
deal,
with
but-
passion. No, this is like a Latin American daytime drama. Okay, like your heart is burning with passion.
Yeah, so I guess one of the questions I would have is, without giving away anything, and I do like this question because it forces us to either work around our thoughts or say something.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the interesting and off the wall things you're trying or planning to try to do next week?
I'll add, I don't know when I'll get a chance to do it because it's kind of the match circumstances have to set up well. But I'm so damn interested to see what Ewoks can do, right? Like we kind of talked about it before, and it sure seems like they're going to be a turn meter machine with ramping offense. There should be a lot that's possible. I'm excited to see that. And part of it is like, I'll watch, streamers and see who else does stuff. But I'm kind of excited for like my matches to hopefully get to a point where it's like, you know what? This is, I can throw some murder bears at the wall and see if they stick.
For me, I think gamesmanship. So we've had a couple, like in the with the death of Set 9, we've had a couple seasons now of, at least one season here, of really honest play with a much more GL upfront centric style of play for very tough competitors, because GLs have been able to be very deterministic on matches, especially in threes. I think that I'm going to be a lot more experimental with seeing how some of my well-developed crons are going to be able to do, setting those as upfront threats, non-GL teams, and seeing what kind of tax I can exact for a GL defense on the back wall that's of varying size, depending on what I think my needs are. But I feel like some more gamesmanships in order with non-GL stuff for me.
Give us one thing that you have in mind for that. Like what's one thing that you're already, because I know you already have some thoughts in your head. What's one of the thoughts you already have in your head?
I think that Saw up front with a Rebel Cron is just a real nasty son of a bitch.
We talking like Saw Rex Kyle, or what are we talking?
I'm talking Saw with a robust Rebel Cron that I think is damage reduction, and I think that there are several compositions under him that you can set that particular type of Cron with and draw an overkill for fear of the fight going too long. Because the longer that fight goes, Saw's like, that's cool, that's fine. Just let those things keep ticking down. Huh?
Kara Baze then.
I think that's a very fair way to go. I like Kara. I like Kara in almost any circumstance. Baze feels like a really useful counterpart to run with Radis for the highest applications, and how I like to protect my counters like that. But I think you've got something there, and again, the idea is. The only thing that's really truly unknown going into this first week here is the impact of these fully developed crons. So you have a strong incentive to pose the strongest challenge to your opponent with a bottom front wall that's rife with your most challenging crons. on teams that they didn't have an assigned counter that you're going to do anyway. Like, it doesn't matter what they have on their Java. Like, unless you were planning to two-piece it anyway, you're probably just going to JMK it because or Slacker. But you know what I'm saying. Like, your counters for GLs are more rote than your counters for non-GLs.
Yeah.
And when you have that bottom front, they don't have knowledge for how much you're stacking the back. I think that's a more advantageous way to play for week 1, and I'm going to experiment with it. But you know how I say, like, it's all conditional on what the scout shows me about how they're going to play. So that's my piece.
Yeah, we tend to talk a lot more in the abstract and less about the specifics. So at the end of all of these videos, I'm going to ask the same question like I did last month. So the same question to you, TJ.
Mine is just exploiting basically what I have. So it's more based in. I can't really go into specifics because then it gives away some of the sauce.
Well, you have a lot of thoughts in your head, like with tasks. Just rattle off one of the things you're considering. It doesn't have to be something you actually like are 99% going to do. Just like what's one of the things you strongly considered? Like, just give us something.
I've said it in the beginning. I'm gonna say it again now. It's not the main teams. It's these off the wall rebel teams. It's the UFU teams. It's looking at
look at the faction level 6s. People do stuff.
It comes back. If you want specifics on it, SAW is a great one. CLS is a great one. There's ones that are new and there's ones that are old, and it's just putting those pieces together that is just gonna fuck you up. That's what my goal is. I want to screw you over. How can I best do that? And the best way I've ever seen it is you're not paying attention to one thing. That's what I'm going to try to exploit. And yes, Tass is right on the history of trying to research it and look at what your opponent does and what he doesn't do. What if it's something they don't do? And that's why I said it. I look at the teams.
That takes a very special eye to look for what they don't do.
And then it's looking at my tendencies. I think you guys, Dagger, you've talked it out. Tash, you've talked it out, and looking at what my tendencies are, and if I can get myself, which is going to be uncomfortable, to a place where I can get a little uncomfortable to make you even more uncomfortable, then I'm winning that strategy. And those teams that you just may miss one thing that screws you over is what I'm looking for to get the win.
How about this, DJ? Give us a datacron you want to perfect and let the people who are listening figure out what it's for.
It's 2. Rebel ability block and Rebel damage reduction. Those are my
Rebels. That's it. Do Rebels, people.
Because the Rebels majority is vast. And I can put 6 teams on defense that all do something different and unique, or I can mix and match them on the defense and put them on a different wall and make them do a specific way I want it to do.
Very nice.
And I'm not going to skate on this either. I am going to be jacking the Mon Mothma team through the roof.
I think that's a fair statement.
We're going to be doing some really fancy shit with that this month. As far as defense teams, I'm going, like I already mentioned Ray Cap, I'll throw in another one. If you are one of those people who's going to put Han and Chewie with your Leia, look into a CLS ability block cron with, I'll call them random rebels. I'm sure the smart people can figure out what I'm talking about.
There's a solid B team to be cobbled together there, to be sure.
Yeah. There's a combination of a couple of the pieces left. Have a tag that goes with some other idiots, if you know what I mean.
Right.
All right. Well, guys, this has been an extraordinary hour. I think we've had really very interesting discussion. I appreciate it. So, as always, thank you. Thank all 3 of you for carving out the time in your very busy lives to make this. And, for all of my patrons here, this will be available here, very shortly on YouTube. I just recorded the other video the other day, so we'll post this just a little later. But next Friday is when this video will be posted for all of our other followers here on YouTube. So thank you so much for your viewership. Really appreciate it. Do leave your comments, leave your feedback. We're all kind of paying attention to that. None of them more than me, though, because I'm very interested in making the show that you want to see. So feel free to share all that feedback. But again, thanks to you guys here for the time. And until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.